Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Amanda Hara in the WVLT newsroom. We are sharing an update on the Tennessee vaccine controversy that we have been covering for days and that is now taking center stage in national coverage. We're learning more about why Dr. Fiskus, Tennessee's top vaccine official, may have been fired. We told you in our earlier reports that WVLT News filed an open records request to obtain personnel file documents on Dr. Fiskus to get a better understanding of why she may have been fired. As you remember, she came forward earlier this week and told not just the state but the nation as of last night on CBS News that she was fired for sharing information about a state option that allows teenagers to get a vaccine in some cases without a parent's approval. We wanted to confirm that her story was accurate, and we asked the governor's office to clarify the reasons for her termination. The governor's office told WVLT News that it does not comment on personnel matters, so we elevated our request and made an open records request, which by state law, any member of the public has the option to inspect documents that pertain, in most cases, to public information or the public interest. So we have just received those court documents explaining why, not court documents, but state documents explaining why Dr. Fiskus may have been fired. So this is Dr. Fiskus. She is, of course, in charge of the state's vaccination program and outreach options. And essentially what we've learned is that on July 12th, Dr. Fiskus received a letter from the state notifying her that her appointment expired immediately. So essentially, she had been fired. That was Monday. Now, the Friday before, so last Friday, Dr. Piercy, the head of the state health department, received a recommendation from the state's chief medical officer to fire Fiskus and outlined essentially a bunch of reasons why. So that letter of recommendation to terminate her is where we're getting a lot of our information. And basically, it boils down to a couple key points. That recommendation to fire her based its argument on accusations that she failed to work well with her team, that she didn't demonstrate good leadership, and that she was unwilling to consult with superiors on certain projects. So we're going to get a little bit more into the weeds on that for you here. In February, that letter reports that multiple complaints were filed against Dr. Fiskus regarding the way she treated employees and morale within her team. Allegedly, 5 senior team members expressed consistent complaints about how she managed the vaccine program during the COVID response. In March, there was a mediation with Dr. Fiskus to talk about those complaints of disrespectful treatment. The letter that we obtained through our open records request indicates that that mediation attempt was not successful. The state says 2 of her senior leaders then resigned. The state also accuses Dr. Fiskus of creating a nonprofit supporting vaccines and then asking for money from the state health department to support that nonprofit that she founded and that she led. The state says that that in and of itself was a major conflict of interest. In May, the state says Dr. Fiskus then shared a letter, and this is really the letter that has been widely discussed in news coverage in the last week. This is the piece of the story that we've heard a lot about already. That letter says that, quote, regarding her own interpretation of state and federal law with external partners with respect to vaccinations and other medical treatment of minors. The letter should have been reviewed by both leadership and departmental legal counsel. However, Dr. Fiskus did not share that letter nor otherwise include any of these parties in the drafting process prior to sending it out. This action resulted in confusion of both law and policy for private providers, for parents, and for legislators. So what is that talking about? Well, basically, this is what's become known as the mature minor doctrine. In Tennessee, that is an option within the state that allows healthcare providers to treat certain minors without parental consent. And this has really been the point of contention. This is why Dr. Fiskus says she was fired for sharing that state option. Here's her explaining a little bit more about why she believes she was fired.
When you're in an executive service position in the Department of Health, you serve at the pleasure of the governor. You can be terminated without cause. And so that's what happened yesterday. I was given a choice to resign or be terminated, and I chose to be terminated because I've not done anything wrong except inform our physicians of where the guidelines were around vaccinating minors. And my job is to protect, promote, and improve the health and prosperity of Tennesseans, and that includes getting them vaccinated against COVID-19 and helping them understand the science around those vaccines and the importance of choosing to get vaccinated.
Okay, so there's Fiskus explaining in her own words. Basically, she says she was fired for pointing out that state option allows teens to be vaccinated without parental consent. She also says the state halted not just COVID vaccine outreach for kids, but all vaccine outreach for kids. Now, the governor's office did respond to those allegations, saying basically, no, that's not true. That's not at all what happened. The state says instead, it has not stopped the program that gives vaccine information to parents, but it is mindful about targeting kids with those outreach efforts. So again, we are getting word from the state today through an open records request. We have received documents that reveal potential reasons why Dr. Fiskus may have been fired. She long contends that it was because that she shared information that teens can get vaccinated in the state without their parents' consent. The documentation WVLT News received within the last hour reveals that there may have been other reasons at play here, including what a recommendation to fire her calls her inability to work well with team members, her lack of leadership, her unwillingness to consult with superiors on different projects. And the state also outlined something it found concerning. It says that she created and led a nonprofit promoting vaccines and then asked the state health department to funnel money into that nonprofit that she ran. The state called that a major conflict of interest. We're going to make all of these documents that we just obtained this afternoon through an open records request available to you online. You can read our initial report in the WVLT News app right now. And I'll show you a homepage shot so you see what exactly to look for. It is this story. This is where all of this brand new information is coming. We're going to continue to expand our coverage tonight on WVLT News at 4, 5, 6, 10, and 11.